Hello everyone. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I use Rhino to design my FrameCAD projects, specifically how to design a FrameCAD truss using Rhino. I'm also going to show you how to use your own custom template, how to take that custom template and add it to the templates that we have in Rhino available to us. We're going to learn how to 2D model. We're going to learn how to 3D model in Rhino. I'm also going to show you how to lay out your design using Rhino layout, so that way we can plot our scale drawings onto a 17 by 11 custom title block. And as a bonus, we're going to export this all to a slicer for 3D printing, so we can make a small physical model. And we're going to export it for detailers so we can begin to manufacture it. So let's get started. Here I am. I'm going to close some of these windows, and this is our starting point. I've got a few of my designs. This is actually one of my students' designs. She's already got some ideas of how she wants to create this FrameCAD truss that connects to this core octagonal piece. She's also working on a skinned facade system. Hasn't figured that out yet, but she is working on that. But I want to focus mainly on how to think about FrameCAD and Rhino. The reason why I like to use Rhino when I'm designing my projects in FrameCAD is because Rhino is an amazing designing tool. Um, I typically start off by sketching my ideas in my sketchbook, and I try to figure out as much of the project as I can before I even jump into any software. Once I have a good understanding of scale and size and dimensions and materiality and profiles and proportions, then I jump into Rhino first. The reason why I like Rhino is because it's a great design software. FrameCAD Detailer and FrameCAD Structure are technically design tools, but I find them to be a little bit constraining as a design tool. When I use paper and pen, my hand makes free-flowing movements, and I'm not having to think too much. I'm not having to figure out what commands I need to use. I'm just designing. I'm sketching ideas. I'm working things out in my head. Once you get over to FrameCAD, you should pretty much have a good understanding of what you're going to create in that software. However, in Rhino, you can kind of continue that ideation phase that you had started in your sketchbook. It's another way of continuing that sketching phase. So that's why I like to use Rhino. It's much looser than FrameCAD Structure and FrameCAD Detailer. So I'm going to show you some of the sketches that are here in Rhino of some ideas of the truss, especially this one right here. And the first thing I want to do is, before I even jump into this specific project, I'm going to show you guys how to navigate over to Document Properties. And in the Document Properties, under Files, under Template Files, under Location, click these little three dots here. This is the exact location of where all of our template files are stored on our computer. So, we have our large objects, small objects, inches, feet, metric, all that kind of stuff. All those templates are stored here. So what we're going to start off with is I'm going to highlight. I'm going to make sure to highlight the whole entire address. I'm going to right click and copy. Hit OK and hit cancel. I'm going to go to my file explorer. And here's where that location is. But really, to get there, all I simply need to do is up here in the address bar, right click, paste, hit enter, and voila. These are all my templates, right? This all looks familiar. Every time you start a new file, these are here. So I've designed my own template file. So let me go ahead and find it. I think I placed it right here. And while this is opening up, I'll explain why I wanted to create this. There's a couple of features in this template file that just make it a little bit easier for me when I'm designing with FrameCAD. First and foremost is I'm currently in the layout stage, or Rhino layout, which I'll get more into later on in this tutorial. But here in this Rhino layout, as you can see, I have my own custom title block. It's got the OCC logo, it's got the FrameCAD logo. I've got a place to put my name or my group's name. the class that I'm taking, the school that I'm at, the date. I can give a name to this project. It'll have a sheet number. That's all embedded into this template file. And then in addition to that, I've got these three layouts, these three detail views. These detail views, if I double click each one, these are views into the 3D modeling space. And the great thing about these detail views is they're all to scale. So this floor plan, when printed at 17 by 11, will be 1/4 inches equal to a foot, which is really important in our industry. Same thing with these elevations here, right? These are all windows into the modeling viewport. All three of these detail views are at the same scale, so that way, when I compare this proportion, this size to this whole entire floor plan, it all kind of makes sense. It's all the same size. Plus, when I go to print preview, even my line weights begin to show up, and my line types, and my line colors, and my dimensions, styles, all those begin to really come to fruition. Here in the perspective viewport, I double click that, you'll see pretty much just some two-dimensional drafting that I've done. A little bit of a three-dimensional make 2D item here. Right, this is a sample project in the model viewports. Check the view layout viewports for the 17 by 11 title block. So what I can do with this title block is I've already got a preset unit of measurement. So if I go to document properties, go to units, my units in this template are, drum roll, inches. So my model units are inches. The unit display or distance display is in feet and inches, with a display precision of a 32nd of an inch. Because of my high tolerances with FrameCAD, I kind of need to see it up to a 32nd of an inch. But the reason why I have my unit set up that way, and I'll bring this up over here just as a simple illustration, is when I use a Rhino template that is, let's say, Rhino templates. I might choose something like large objects, feet, and inches. When I choose that kind of template, the way I type in feet or a measurement, let's say uh, I wanted to say 5 feet, I would need to type in 5 and hit enter. Right, that would be 5 feet in this template. Now, if I were to use large objects, inches, feet and inches, to type 5 feet, I would need to say 5 and apostrophe. Okay. So let's say I want to use 5 inches, or let's say 12 inches, or 14 inches. Let's say 14 inches. If I wanted 14 inches in the large objects, feet, oops. If I wanted to use 14 inches in the large objects, feet, and inches, I would need to say 14. Can't hit enter right now because 14 enter would be 14 feet. I would instead need to hold shift and then hit the quotation mark. Right, that's 14 inches. Here in large objects, inches, I can say 14 and just hit enter. So I'm not having to hold shift to say anything about inches. And additionally, let's say I wanted to say 14 feet. Well, in this template, 14 feet enter is simply 14. In this template, I would need to say 14 with a little apostrophe, but I'm not having to hold shift. So just not holding shift for me, that 0.01 seconds that I save, it matters to me. So I like to choose inches, feet, and inches when I make my FrameCAD designs. Go ahead and delete that. So that's why my units are set up that way here. And then the display will be in feet and inches up to a 32nd of an inch. So let's take this template. I'm going to go and close this file. I know where I have it saved. I know exactly where my template files are here in Rhino. They're at this specific location that I found in my document properties. So I'm going to dock that off to the side here. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to my FrameCAD folder, right click and go to open a new window. And I'll split this view here. And let's make this a little bit bigger. So if I want to take my cool new Rhino template, I can click and drag it over here and it'll copy it over there. Okay. And then I can close that. So let's open a new instance of Rhino by right-clicking Rhino, going to Rhino 8. And when I go to new, I'll have a brand new template that I can start using, right? Inversely, I can say File, New, and there it is, FrameCAD inches, feet, and inches. If I select that one, it comes with my starter sampler little project that's got all the great line weights and layers and line types. But also here in Rhino Layout, page 1, my beautiful little title block, right? All this is automatically populated, right? And my drawings are here. If I right-click page 1 and go to print preview, all my line weights begin to show up, right? I can see this one's thicker than this one. My line types start to show up as well. My plot styles are all showing. So this is really nice. I can just start every one of my FrameCAD projects this way. So the first thing I want to do now that I have this brand new file and I'm using this new template is I'm going to say File, Save As, and you're going to want to save it somewhere where you can remember where it is and find it again later. So let's go to Studio 2 and let's type in today's date, 260312, and we'll call this Truss Design for Meditation Space. Hit OK. Great. Now I can start my project. So one of the first things I'll advise you guys do is edit this title block. And to do that, all you need to do is go to this Properties panel, go over here to Layout User Text, and here where it says Student Name, add your name. If you're in a group, add everyone's names. Class name and number. This is Architecture A122, FrameCAD Studio 2. My project name is Truss Design, and my little subtitle is for Meditation Space. The sheet number is already populated because if I add a new sheet, if I right-click page 1 and move or copy, move to end, create a copy, hit OK, I will have now a page 2, and that page number, that sheet number, is automatically populated there. So I don't need this second one. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to hit yes. So we've set ourselves up for later. So go ahead and change all those values by going to Properties and then Layout User Text. So now we need to model our design in 2D. So our student has already done a lot of that work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece that she has right here, and I'm going to export it. Okay. Or actually, I could just Control C to copy it, and then go to that other Rhino file and paste it right in. Okay, here it shows up in this view here, or my back view. So I'm going to move it way over here. I'm going to get rid of all of this. Can't select any of that, and that's because it's on this layer that is locked. So I can unlock it, select all that, delete it, select my truss. Okay, I'm going to use my gumball to rotate it so that I can view this truss from the top view. And I want to put it somewhere near my origin. Okay, so when you copy and paste from another Rhino file to this Rhino file, everything comes in to the right proportions, the right scale, the right dimensions, and everything. So to get to this point, you would need to have had started with a sketch. Once you have your sketch, you'll have some dimensions, which you can see here. And this one, actually, I'll go ahead and copy this one over. Flip it down, and then this time I'll move it to the ortho ZSA to zoom select all. So we've got a bunch of dimensions. Here's my dimension line. It's really hard to read these dimensions right now because they're so tiny on my 1:1 scale model view. So if you select one of these dimensions, go to properties, you'll see it's an 1/8 inch in height. The model space or scale, model space scale is only 2, so it's only multiplying this by a factor of 2. So 1/8 times 2 is equal to 1/4 of an inch. So if I said multiply by 10, or maybe multiply by 25, or maybe even 35, it'll blow it up to something that I can see. So let's go to foot inch architectural. I'll select this little arrow. We're going to update foot inch architectural so that way it matches. And I'm going to grab all of my dimensions and hold shift. And click this little arrow here, remove overrides. Okay. So to get started with this sketch, you would need to have had to figure out some dimensions. So as you can see, this student was thinking about 1 foot 6 inches in the horizontal, about 16 feet overall as a finished height from bottom to top, and then a couple of other angles. So to translate your sketch to something like this, what we would need to do is, I like to make a lot of construction guidelines. So I'll draw a line like this, and then I'll offset it. Actually, let's do another line going horizontally, and let's offset that horizontal line 16 feet. Okay, I know overall the width is 11 feet, so I'm going to offset this line 11 feet to the right. So now I know that my design lives somewhere in here. I've got a line that goes slightly askew to the right, 10 foot 1 inches. So I'm not sure what that angle is, but if I were to take her Rhino 2D model and do a dimension of the angle, I could dimension this line to this line, and I'll see it's 87 degrees. So what I can do now is I'm going to do another polyline, and I'm going to go up 10 foot 1 inch. There's a lot of ways to do this, but this is one easy way to do it. And as you can see, that will draw a 10 foot 1 long line. And I just need to place it. So I'm going to click right there. I'll hit enter. That line exists right here. So if I click and drag from left to right, fully encompassing it, I can see it there. And then if I rotate, my center of rotation would be here. My first reference point would be here. I'm going to turn ortho off for this. And I know I need to go this way, right? So if this is my 90 degree and this is 87, I need to rotate this way 3 degrees. So I'm going to hit 3, enter, oops, -3, just like that, and then click, there we go. So there's my 10 foot 1 long line, and then I know that this line just connects simply this way, just like that. I can see down here that that's about 12 feet. It's not exactly 12 feet, but it's about 12 feet. I'm going to click right there. Okay, what else do I know? If I were to create a vertical line going this way and copy that line all the way to here, then I could take a dimension from here to here, and I would know that's 3 foot 8 inches. So if I offset 3 foot 8 inches, take this line and go this way. Same thing going vertically. I take this and copy it to here, do a dimension. Here I'm just backwards engineering someone else's design. So 8 foot 3 1/4. So if I take my horizontal line, offset 8 foot 3 1/4, goes right there. Now I know that this line, I need to do another line that's 1 foot 6 inches away. Offset this one 1 foot 6 inches away, just like that, and then draw my line from here to here. Okay, now I need to figure out where this corner is, so I can copy this over here and copy this over here while I'm at it. And let's dimension from here to here. It's 3'5", and from here to here is 3'11". So let's come over here. We'll offset this curve 3 foot 5 inches, and I think this line just stayed where it is. Polyline, and I need to figure out the verticality of it next. So let's take this line and put it up here and put this right here, and we'll dimension from here to here, 2 foot 5.5. So offset 2 foot 5.5. Okay. And then dimension again from here to here, that's 10.5 inches. So if I offset 10.5 inches, now I can understand that this line goes to here and then it goes to there. Okay, so I can get rid of these lines by trimming. So if I select all of these lines here, I can trim. I can get rid of all that, all this, all that, and then all of these inside ones as well. Okay, then I want to select all of those and type in join. Now it's one closed curve, so that's really good. All right, you don't have to do that, but you should figure that out in your sketch. You should figure out what those dimensions are, and that's one easy way to do it with this specific kind of truss. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start to 2D draft the profile of the studs. So I'm going to get rid of all these lines and dimensions on this stud, on this truss here. Okay. Now, one of the first things I notice on this design is this proportion right here does not look correct. Typically, let's bring this up. This is what our specific section profile looks like. Okay. This is what we can produce with our machine here at OCC. This dimension, the width from this flange to this flange is 3.625, and the distance from this web to this top of the lip is 1.625. So 3 5/8 by 1 5/8. Those are the proportions. It's pretty much a 2x4, which is 1.5 by 3.5. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to measure using distance. Measuring from here to here, I find that that's 3 9/16. The reason why that's incorrect is because this should be that 1 5/8 distance, right? Not 3. So we're going to change that. Same thing with all this webbing here. So I'm going to type in offset 1 5/8. Select this curve, offset it inwards. That's the proportion that we should be seeing. Let's draw a line from, let's draw it from here to here, right at that crack. And then from here, I guess, maybe we'll go perpendicular like this. Make sure you have the right object snaps on. I already have end, near, point, mid, center, intersection, perpendicular. O snap is enabled. Okay. All right, if I want to do this webbed truss like that, I want to figure out where these are supposed to hit. 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. So if I'm not sure and I'm just eyeballing it, I could just go in. Let's turn off our center O snap. And maybe we're just kind of eyeballing it and I'm trying to get it somewhat right, but not being too concerned with the design. This is totally one valid way of doing it. We're not calculating anything at this moment. We're just kind of putting together the idea of what we want. I'm still in a design phase. I'm not structurally designing anything at this moment, so me being loose like this is okay. Okay, and then I would offset. I like to do this using the both side method. So I'm going to offset on both sides. If I'm trying to get 1 5/8 as the total width, I need to do half of that to offset on both sides. So half of 1 5/8. If I turn that into a rational number, it's 13/8, so 13/16. So 13/16. And we'll take this guy and now we'll offset on both sides. And we'll take this guy, we'll do the same. B for both sides, offset, B for both sides, select it, offset, B for both sides, offset, B for both sides. Okay. I really don't need this middle line, but I'm going to show you how to clean this up really quickly. I'm going to select all of that, type in curve Boolean. I'm going to select anywhere outside of this whole entire group of curves, just like that. And I'll select everywhere inside of these little pie wedges and hit enter. Okay. And move this using the gumball, and I'll move it away, and look at what it does. It cleans that all up for me. Whoops. Looks like I got some intersecting points, some pointy ends, so I don't want that. Let's try this again. Curve Boolean, outside, all the insides, and then this time we're going to go in, and we're not going to allow those pointies to point out like this. So just select anywhere inside of these regions, and that'll clean that up. Oops, we got some on this side too. Okay, once you get them all, hit enter and just simply move them away, and boom, you've got super nice, clean truss. You can delete this one now. Let's select it all, type in ZSA, zoom select all. Okay, so here in perspective viewport, now if I want to 3D model this, all I simply have to do is type in extrude curve, right? And the distance I want to extrude this, let's make sure I'm on the right layer. Let's go back to here, and let's make this our default layer right now. The distance I want to extrude it is 3 5/8. Okay, so let's select that new truss, move it over, and there you go. That's how you 3D model and 2D model your truss to the accurate proportions of the 3 5/8 by 1 5/8 instead. Okay, that doesn't solve all the issues as far as manufacturing this goes, but as far as an idea goes, we have a starting point. And so now what we want to do is I'm going to create some two-dimensional drawings for this truss. I'm sorry, I'm going to lay them out. So here under page 1, and if you don't have page 1, to actually get started using this layout space, all you need to do is click this little plus sign. Hit new layout. Okay. Initial detail count means how many of these little detail views do you want? Do you want to show one view, 2 views, 3 views, 0 views, 4 views, whatever you want. So for this one, I really just need one. I want it on a 17 by 11 sheet of paper. My printer is Rhino PDF, but if you have Adobe PDF, you can use that as well, but you'll need a PDF printer. And then 17 by 11 landscape, and click OK. All right. That's how you create a new layout. If you double click in the space, this is your detail view. We are now in the model space, so I can actually zoom in and out on that model space. And then when I double click outside of it, I'm back into paper space. I want to make sure that my title block is here, which it's not. So I'm going to delete this page 2. Because I created this template, I already have a page that perfectly has this title block in it. If I want another page, all we need to do is right click, move a copy, move to end, create a copy, and hit OK. So back to page 1, I've got 3 viewports here. If I turn off print preview, I can see the lines that delineate between the 3 detail views. I really only need one detail view, so I'm going to select these two detail views here and the dimensions that are associated with them and the view names and their scales. And I'm going to delete it. I'm going to select this detail view and I'm going to grab it by its control points and I'm going to move it all the way to here. So that way this detail view gets the full page. I'm going to select all of this text and delete it. I'm going to double click in this space. I'm double clicked into this detail view. I'm going to go to properties, unlock this detail view. I'm going to zoom out with my scroll wheel and I'm going to select my two-dimensional drawing, type in ZSA, hit escape a couple of times, and then here under scale, I'm going to say 0.25 inches is equal to 12 inches. Okay? Or I could say 0.5 inches is equal to 12 inches. Okay? So depending on what architectural scale you want to choose to show your drawing on this 17 by 11, you type those dimensions in here under scale. Okay? So at this scale, it means that for every half inch on this piece of paper, that represents 1 foot in real life. So now that I've got the scale correct, I'm going to click lock. Okay. I want to hide everything in this detail view except for this truss, the two-dimensional truss. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it all. Okay, not this red truss. I'm going to click invert. That's going to select everything else besides the thing I just had selected. And then I'm going to say hide in detail. You don't want to say hide because it'll hide it everywhere, but hide in detail will hide all of those items in this specific detail view. Okay, so now I'm going to double click outside of this area. I'm going to scooch this on over. I'm going to change this from 3 to 1, and instead of proposed floor plan, I'm going to call this a truss elevation. I'm going to change the scale so that it reads half inch is equal to a foot, and voila. Now I'm ready to print this out. So if I print this out, if I click print preview, this is what it's going to print out as. Notice that there's no line weights. Like this is really thin, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to open up my layers panel. Right here under 2D, I've already predetermined about 6 layers that are marked extra thin, thin, medium, thick, extra thick, and hidden. All of them have their own print colors and their print weights, line weights. So if I select all of these curves and put them on the extra thick layer, change object layer, so let's select this, go to properties. I want to make sure that most of these say by layer. I want the print color to be by layer. I want the print width to be by layer. So that looks good. Let's do that again. Select all. Let's go to layers. Let's click extra thick and change object layer. Double click out of that. And now you can see it's changed to this really fat line weight. Let's double click again. We'll select these two curves and let's put them on the thin layer. Change object layer. Double click again. And now you can see we have a couple of different line weights, right? This all looks goofy, but now we're starting to have some line weight hierarchy. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click in here, select them all. Let's put them under thin, and then we'll select the outside one and we'll put that on thick, and then we'll go back, and there we go. It's really clean. If I wanted to draw a ground line, I might just draw a horizontal line with ortho on, just like that. And then let's scooch this on over. We'll put it on the extra thick layer. There you go. Now I got a little ground line. And now I'm in this layout view here under my layout layer. Under dimension, I'm going to make the dimension layer current, which has this really nice heavy teal dark green color. And I'm going to type in dimension. Let's do continue equals yes. First dimension point, second dimension point, and I'm going to pull it off to the left just like this. And I'm going to click once. Okay, my second dimension point is going to be way up here, just like that. Let's start a new chain. Let's do a dimension point from here to here and to here. And we'll do it all the way to here. Let's do another new one. We'll do it from here to here. Go this way. Let's do another new one. We'll go from here to here, and we'll go this way. Okay. So maybe we want to move this a little bit. Okay. Maybe we want to, do we want to move these up maybe? Yeah, let's move them. I'm going to hold both, I'm going to hold shift, select these control points, and click and drag this gumball to move it upwards to here. And then I'll select this one, control points, move that up to here. A little tight, but, and then we'll grab this guy. Actually, we'll grab both of these. And this control point here needs to move too. It's just kind of going through the whole entire drawing. We'll do it like that. Or better yet, let's hit undo, 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 or redo. And let's take this guy and we'll just move him up. Oops. We'll just move him up. Right. And I'll select that one, grab its control point, and come all the way up to here. Okay, that looks better. And the same thing with this guy here. Doesn't need to be all the way up to there. Makes the drawing look weird. There we go. 9 foot 6 inches, 1 foot 6 inches. All right. So now we've used Rhino layout to take our 2D drawing and turn it into an accurately scaled half inches equal to a foot scale drawing with line weights. I can now hit, I should probably save before I do anything else. Before I do anything else, let's say I want another detail view here. Maybe I want to show the plan view of this entire project. I don't have a plan view yet, but if I were to take my design, this 3D portion of it, let's rotate it upwards. Let's move this to the origin. And then I'll just scooch it over this way. Let's say I do an array polar. And I'm just going to make this up from somewhere from, well, let's do a line, actually. Let's do a line from this midpoint going out this way. And let's take this array polar from somewhere on this line. We'll do 8 of these or something like that, 360 degrees, just like that. Okay, that's kind of the design. So let's make 2D. That'll create a 2D drawing of this from this C-plane using the top view. Okay, and we'll hit OK. Okay, there it is. There's our 2D drawing. I don't need this boundary box. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to select all of this and I'll put it on the medium layer. Actually, I'll put them on the thin layer, 2D, 2, thin layer, change object layer. I'll type in curve boolean and I'll select anywhere outside of it and it'll make a whole boundary of all of those lines. And that I'll put on the medium. Okay, so now I have a plan drawing of my project. So if I go back to page 1, maybe I want to add that in here. So let's grab this detail view, not the block instance, but the detail view. And I'm going to type in copy. I will copy it from here to the midpoint. Hit enter, hit escape, escape. Okay, now I have 2 detail views. Okay, let's take my title block, which is on layer 1. I'm going to lock that so I don't keep selecting these. Oh, maybe it's not on layer 1. This is on title block. That makes sense. I'm going to lock title block so I can't accidentally select my title block anymore. And I'm going to take this drawing, actually this drawing, and I'm going to grab its control points, move from here to this midpoint, and then I'm going to take this drawing, this drawing, and I'll move it from these endpoints to this midpoint as well. Okay, I'll double click inside of this view, go to properties, unlock it, zoom out, select this truss, ZS, escape, layout view, 1/2 of an inch is equal to 12 inches. Okay, lock it again, and double click, and then double click in here, unlock it, zoom out. I should have a 2D view of the plan, ZS, escape, 1/2 inch equal to 12 inches. Okay, a little too big. So what if I did 0.25 inches is equal to 12 inches? Okay, that fits a little bit better. So let's hit locked. Okay, let's grab the control points of this left edge of this and then just drag it out so that way this now pops in. Let's double click this detail view, unlock it. We'll say 1/4 inch is equal to 12 inches. We'll lock it, double click out of it. I'm going to need to delete this dimension. I'll type in dimension and I'll go from here to here like that. And I'll do a new one from here, from here to here like that. And I'll select this guy. I'll move its control point so that way this text comes right back here. Okay. Maybe this thing can come back down here again. Okay. Let's fix this one so that way it's not way up here. And we'll fix this one and move it down here. Okay, good. Now it's better. Let's move this one over here and move this one over here. Oops. All right. So now I can delete this one. I can move this over to this side, and I'm going to type in copy and copy this over to this side. This is now drawing number 2. This is now the plan. This is actually now 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. This is also 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. Oops, not a fifth. 1/4 inch. There you have it. I've got a plan view of my project and an elevation view of my project, both are at the same scale. So now all I have to do is hit save. And now it's time to print this thing out. So I'm going to go to print, choose whatever PDF printer you want to use. Make sure you're using the layout page size, which is 17 by 11. Output type, vector output always. Print color always. And then scale has to be 1:1 or 100%. If this says fit to page, a lot of times, or scale to fit, a lot of times it'll actually scale it down to 98% of the size, which no longer means that it's to an architectural scale of 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. So this always has to be 100%. Right? So that way these views can be 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot. If you have multiple ones, you have multiple layouts, you'll see here in review and output scale, it'll ask you if you want to print multiple layouts, but I only have one. So let's hit print. Let's save it somewhere where I can find it again later. Let's call this 26 03 Truss Design Meditation Space. Hit enter. It should pop up automatically, and voila, there we go. If I were to print this out on the printer that can print 17 by 11, I would have a sheet that is 17 by 11 inches, drawings that are quarter inches equal to a foot, which means I can use my architectural scale to measure anything that doesn't have dimensions on it right here, right now. All right, so that takes care of 2D modeling in Rhino and a little bit of 3D modeling and also using Rhino layout. Now, let's do a little bit more and let's push it and get this ready for 3D printing. So my tip for you guys when you 3D print is you want to take your 3D piece, okay, keep it near the origin, okay? And if you're not doing so already, make sure you've got some layers going. When I scale things down in 3D, I like to have two major layers. One major layer would be 1:1, and the other major layer would be let's do half inch is equal to a foot. I know I'm using quarter inch in the drawing, but when I make the physical model, I find FrameCAD things work really well. Unless it's humongous, they work really well for half inch is equal to a foot scale model. If we're doing a building, maybe we do quarter inch. But if we're doing little follies, little meditation spaces, small pieces of furniture, find half inch is equal to a foot is a really good size. So what I want to do with this is I really don't need this here. That's the original sketch. It's not super accurate. So I'm going to delete that. I like to keep myself super organized when possible. So two-dimensional stuff, I'm going to turn that off. Okay, this is three-dimensional. This is 1:1 scale. All of this red stuff is 1:1 scale. So within this 1:1 scale major layer, I might have a sub-layer. The first one might be called FrameCAD. And for me, I just like to have a layer, because I tend to do some rendering, so I want those components to be on their own layer, so that way I can add a material to this specific layer to do some rendering later on. So I'm always conscious of that. Okay. If I were to do like add some wood to this thing, let me just quickly, tack on some sheathing onto this thing, right, like that, something like that, and let's do offset surface. Take that and offset it half of an inch, right? So this thing here might need to be on its own layer called wood. Wood. Right click, change object layer, give it a layer display color that's like wood-like, hit OK. Right? I do like to separate my layers so that way when I go to work on something very specific, I can say lock all the FrameCAD stuff. Let me just work on the wood stuff right now, or turn off all the FrameCAD stuff. Let me just work on the wood stuff right now. So that's when I would use layers. So I have my 1:1 scale stuff, and then my half inch is equal to a foot stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this, unlock this layer, and I'm only going to 3D print one of these trusses. So let's grab this truss. I like to make copies of it, so I'm going to make copy, and I'm going to copy it over here, hit escape a couple of times. Okay, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to put it in the half inch is equal to a foot layer. I can additionally, make some sub layers in here, but in this case I won't. I'm just going to change object layer. Let's get rid of these layers here if I don't need them. Looks like layer 1 is busy. Line work, not sure what that is. 2601 23 test. I don't know what this is. Let's delete that. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I have this on the half inch is equal to foot scale layer. I'm going to turn off everything 1:1, and I'm just going to focus in on this half inch is equal to foot. For 3D printing, I like to lay this down in such a way where I can view it easily in top view, because when I go to import this, it'll come relative. So let's move this to the origin, just like that. So it's laying down on the ground. And now I need to perform a magical spell to bring it down to the correct size. So the way I like to scale in Rhino, and this might be a little old-fashioned or weird or different, but this is the way I like to do it. I make 3 lines. So first line is just a vertical one. I offset that first line a distance of 12 inches, select it and go to the right, and then I offset a distance of half inch, right? Or quarter inch or eighth inch or whatever your scale is, half of an inch. Select that same line, go to the right again, right? You want to make sure they're both of those offset lines are going to the right. And then I'm going to select my 3D object. I want to make sure it's a closed extrusion. It makes it better for 3D printing. And let's scooch this over just so we can visually see this a little bit better when I do my magic. So to scale this down to half inches equal to a foot, I'm going to select that truss, scale, enter. My base point is going to be the end point of the first line that I made. The scale factor or first reference point is going to be this line, the 12-inch line. So I'm going to click that. And then my second reference point is going to be that little half-inch line. I'm going to click that. And now I've scaled it down to half inches equal to a foot. So what just happened? What did I just do? Let's hit undo. Selected it, scale, enter. Basically what I'm saying is everything that's 12 inches long, make it equal to half of an inch instead. And voila, poof, perfectly scaled. So let's hit delete. Let's scooch this on over. Let's go to our perspective view so I can see it a little bit better. Let's move it from here to the origin, ZSA, right? If I look at my grid here, the grid is set up in such a way where each of these little squares represents, I think, a quarter of an inch, and each of these major grid lines represents a full inch. So if I go to my grid line count 70, minor grid lines at every one inch and major grid lines every 5. So that doesn't make any sense. Well, I guess it does in terms of tenths, but I want every minor grid line spacing to be 0.25 inch and every major to be at every 4 minor grid lines, right? 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25 would be 1 inch. So I want my major grid lines at every 4 quarter inch minor grid lines. Let's hit OK. There we go. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 inches in height, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, it's the same thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches, roughly 6 inches in width. So this thing is definitely scaled down. In fact, if I turn on my 1-to-1 scale layer, I can see just how big the 1-to-1 scale thing is compared to the little tiny one. Okay, so let's turn off the 1-to-1 scale. Let's focus in on just this one again. Okay. If need be, I can turn this one off and just work on the 1-to-1 stuff. But let's take this and we're going to get it ready for slicing. So take this truss, export it, and let's put it in the right place. I'm going to call it Truss Design 01, just in case I make new iterations in the future. And the file type I want to use is STL. Hit OK or save, and then hit OK, and then hit OK. Just use all those default settings. And you need Bamboo Studio. This is a program that allows us to slice for 3D printing. We have Bamboo P1Ss here at OCC, so you're going to want to use at least Bamboo Studio. I'm going to create a new project. Right? Make sure you're using the Bamboo Lab P1S 0.4 nozzle. You can select this little button here to adjust any of the more advanced settings about the machine itself. If you don't see this printer here, click on this little settings box here, and you'll see all of the available printers here. I highly recommend that you do not select them all. We don't have all of these. Unless you have them all at home, there is really no need to select all of them. So go to Bamboo, P1S, and most of our printers are using a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So keep it at 0.4 unless you have your own personal one. Then go ahead and use whatever nozzle you've got loaded up. Or if you have a mini, same thing. So click that and hit confirm. If you're using the textured PEI plate that comes with it, you're going to want to select textured PEI plate. It'll say on the side of the textured plate right here on the side. So you'll know exactly what plate you're working with. If you're using the AMS system on our P1Ss here at school, which can use up to 4 different spools of filament and color, you're going to need to click this plus button until you get up to four filaments. As you can see, I already have 10 now. If I just hit the minus sign, this would allow me to use multiple different colors at whatever stage that I want. So now I'm going to go File, Import 3MF STL STEP, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to find my file. The STL file. Okay, if your thing is really tiny, it might give you this dialog box, okay? And let me explain what it means. It's saying that your object is too small. Now, I just counted, it was about 6 inches by 8 inches, so it shouldn't be too small. But the problem is no matter what units you preset your Bamboo Studio program to use, Bamboo wants to import things in metric units. So although I might have my file over here in inches, right? And overall, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish inches, 5 inches or so, right? It's going to read that as 5 millimeters. Right? Let me show you what 5 millimeters looks like. I'm going to make a copy of this guy here. Okay. And I'm going to grab this and I'm going to scale and I'm going to snap to my grid. So let's grid snap. From here to here should be an inch. And if I make my second reference point 1 millimeter, okay, this is how big Bamboo Studio sees it. It's like, hey, your file looks really tiny. Are you sure that's the right size? Am I reading it wrong? It's reading it wrong, guaranteed. But most of the time, this software wants to think in metric units. So if it gives you this, it'll say it's too small and maybe in meters or inches. Do you want to scale to millimeters? You say yes. If you don't get this option, I'll show you what to do anyways. Actually, I'm just going to show you what to do if you don't get this option. So we'll say no. Okay. And it's going to say, okay, well, if that's the right size, 5 millimeters is what you want, then 5 millimeters is what you get. Okay. So that's definitely not the right size. Okay. So to change it, make sure you have that little teeny tiny thing selected. It's kind of hard to select it. There we go. Zoom out, click scale, and right here it'll tell you its size in the X and the Y and the Z in millimeters. Right. So if I knew the Z height of the thing that I want to output here in terms of millimeters, then I would be able to convert that. So here's one easy way to convert this. Type in distance. For the distance units, we're going to use millimeters. And I'm going to select down here and then up here in the Z. That is equal to 3.83646. So 383.646. So going back to here, in my Z, instead of 0.15 millimeters, I'm going to say 3.83646 and hit enter, and boom, that is the exact scale that we want to use. That's how you fix that scaling issue, right? You can see how that last one was way too tiny, And that's what Bamboo was saying. It was saying, hey, this is awfully tiny. Are you sure this is what you want? Okay, it's really important that we keep our scale consistent throughout our drawings, throughout our sketching, throughout our physical model. All right, come over here to system presets. I recommend if you're new to 3D printing, just use 0.20 millimeter standard. It is just like the mid-range. If you want it super fine and detailed, 0.08 millimeter layer heights is better. And if you're in a rush, 0.28 millimeter layer heights are faster and better. So actually, let's go ahead and hit 0.28 millimeter extra draft. Slice your plate, and it says 26 minutes. Let's go back and say 0.08. And we'll slice the plate, 33 minutes. So not a big difference with this one, but I'm going to switch this back to extra draft. For what we're doing with the FrameCAD thing, it's a pretty simple, straight extrusion. So if we were doing something fancier, that's curvier, that's got really fine details, we might want to rethink which one of these presets we use. But I think 26 minutes total at extra draft is just fine. You can see all of the layers right there. Big fat 0.28 millimeter layer heights right there. There are tons of layers. So the next thing you want to do is click this drop-down menu, export plate slice file, and then export plate slice file. You're going to need a micro SD card and a micro SD card adapter. So let me go get mine. Go and plug in your micro SD card into the micro SD card adapter. I'll link my recommended micro SD card adapter for you guys. Okay, and we want to put that file right here. This is the one time where I'm okay with you using a different file name. So for me, I'm going to put Truss 01 2JC. So that way when people see my file, you'll see what's printing, they'll know who is printing it. If I put a really long name, it's going to be scrolling as a marquee forever. And hit save. Let it do its thing. Eject this, and then go over to the P1S and start printing it out. Okay, so the next thing I want to do as a little bonus is I want to get into Detailer. So I'm going to open up Detailer. I'm going to save this Rhino file. And I'm going to export from here, go to my 1:1 scale, and turn off the ½ inch is equal to a foot. Okay. Actually, let's put our 2D on. And I'm going to take my 2D, not the ground line, but the rest of it. I'm going to export this, give it a similar name, Truss Design 01, just because I might make variations in the near future if I don't like 01 anymore. And I'm going to do it as a DXF this time. AutoCAD Drawing Exchange, DXF, and click Save, and hit OK. Back in Detailer, I'm going to start a brand new file. Okay. Right-click, Properties, change the project name to Truss 01, Client, Keva, job number is 001. Okay. Let's do a new plan. Okay. And instead of new, we'll just call it 01. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to use an external wall from this drop-down menu, and I'm going to place frame. I need to understand the overall width of this thing, which looks like is 11 feet. Right? If I look back at my page, yeah, about 11 feet. Right? If I was looking at it in plan view, this is 11 feet. Dimension, layout, dimension, and let's do a new chain. And we'll go from here to here. That's 11 feet. Okay, so back in Detailer, I'm going to make a wall that stems from 0, 0, enter. It's going to go to the right 11 feet, and it doesn't really matter which direction you place the side to grip the stick. So I'm going to click this way once, hit escape, or hit enter, escape, select EX1, right click, properties, main, let's change the height, and the height will be 16 feet. So let's make this 16 feet. Okay, stud spacing, let's say 2 feet. Okay. Um, let's not put in any nogs. Let's not put in any service holes. And let's go to build. Okay, so we get a wall that's the rough shape of it. Let's go to File, Import DXF, File, Open, find your file. There it is, DXF. And one super important thing is we need to change this import scale. To figure out what scale we need to use, we just need to simply ask Google 1 inch to 1 millimeter. Right, the conversion rate is 25.4. Put this back over here. Import scale 25.4. 25.4. Import. Oh, actually, sorry. Select all of it. Import. Close. Okay, and there you go. So now what I can do is I can say, I'm going to grab all that. I'm going to move from here all the way to, I'm going to turn ortho off, all the way to here, and all the way from here to here. This part doesn't really matter, but just being super nitpicky about it. So now what we can do is I can actually delete all of these if I wanted to. Let's delete all of these. Maybe I'll keep this one. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll delete that too. And now I can come over here. I can grab place stud section S. Make sure you choose the correct section if we're printing this out on our machine at Orange Coast College. So I'm going to select this one as if we are. Okay. And all I need to do is go like this, and then go this way. Okay. Now let's do like this, and go this way. And we'll just go around. Make sure you snap to the right things. Make sure you have the right snaps on. Don't worry if they overlap. We will fix that later. You'll see that detailers are already starting to rationalize this and trying to join them as best as possible. But unfortunately, we, the human beings, are drawing this, so we're doing it really horribly. This is not how I would have automated it. And then I'll do one from here to here. Okay, think about which orientation you want these studs to be. Like I said, don't worry. We will have time to fix this later. Just kind of using all of these lines as guidelines. Oops, wrong one. Not sure how consistent I've been. All right, so there we go. Now it's time to clean this up. So to clean it up, we can use commands like trim or extend. We can go to edit, sorry, tools. We can flip our stick if we want it to go the other way, trim and extend, member break. What else can we use? I guess that's it. So let's do trim and extend. And let's try to take this one and oops, and this one. Oh, that's not doing anything. Let's grab trim and extend. We'll click this point here, select this thing here. No, it's not liking that. Let's see if I could just extend this straight over. Nope, not really liking that. We also have a command called member fillet. So if I just draw a couple of these pieces here, like that, I can use something called member fillet, MF for member fillet. And I could say first entity, second entity, and it will join them at that corner, just like that. This little line here means this that FrameCAD is going to chamfer this side, this ST12. It's going to get chamfered, so that way you don't get this little corner here. Even though it's showing it, it won't actually do it. It'll cut it using chamfer. So make any edits that you might need to. Maybe we realize now that we don't want these to crisscross at the same exact point. Maybe we just drop them a little bit lower. Let me turn off my object snaps temporarily. And then let's grab this guy and move him up a little bit higher. So maybe we make some slight adjustments to the project so that way we don't have that much crisscrossing, right? Like especially right there, that looks so messy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces all running into each other. So let's have this piece go here. Let's have this piece go there. Maybe this needs to go down lower. And this one needs to come down to here. Yeah, that might be a better connection. Same thing over here. Let's bring this guy like that. So they're not clashing so much. I also don't want big lip cuts like that because it gets me nervous. I feel like the machine is going to jam at that point. So I'm doing too many lip cuts in a row. Okay. Maybe I just get rid of this one there. Feels a little excessive. I'll put this one over here. And let's put this one over here. And let's put this one over here. And let's move that one over there. Maybe a little bit further. And maybe it goes into here. Okay, there we go. So with that, I can close this now. And when I go to File, Export, well, before I do that, I should probably File, Save. And let's call this 2026 03 Truss Design 01. That's a FrameCAD project file. Go to File, Export 3D VRML. Let's put it in the same location. Select all, export, file, view 3D, find my file. I don't see it. Let's try that again. File, export 3D VRML. Should go under 2026, spring 2026, 121, Studio 2. Should just go right there. So let's hit OK, select all, export, file, view 3D, and 121, Studio 2. There it is. Always make sure you go to turn mode when you're in this SAP Visual Enterprise Reviewer. Otherwise, you have to deal with spinning around like a madman. But there it is. There's our truss. Okay, from here, let's go back to our plan view right here. We can also import our plan view. That way we can understand where this all goes relative to one another. Let's say I made a circle. That circle is something like that. Right? And I move my circle from this endpoint to turn ortho off, put it on this midpoint. Let's see, does this thing have array polar? Of course it doesn't. Can do an array. Select objects to create an array from, be this guy. Row offset, yeah, that's not the kind of array I want. Yeah, there's no array polar, but I know I need 8 of the same thing. So all I need to do is go and file print 8 of these. I don't really have to 3D model it in their spaces over here, but what I could do is I could line it, create a line from this point going straight and mirror. Mirror axis is this one, this one. Now I have EX2. Or can I rotate these? Rotate them from, I bet I could do that. Let's do TE for trim, select right here, and take that one. Remember cut. So let's, can I rotate these two? Rotate from here, angle in degrees. So let's do 60 divided by 8. 60 divided by 8. 45, duh. So let's do 45. Oh, I can. Interesting. So then that means that I can take both of these, copy, let's copy it here, here, and here. If I want to do 8, I'll select both of these. I will move them both here. I will rotate from this rotation point, angle in degrees, 45. Ooh, okay. Move this to here, rotate, rotation point, angle in degrees 90, and then select these two, move, select it from there, move it to the same spot, rotate from this point, 90 plus 45, 135. Ooh, all right, here's a cool trick. If I select all of these, I can right click and go to properties, or maybe I have to do one at a time. So let's go to EX8, right click it, properties. We're going to say cloned to EX1. Okay, and I'll explain why later. And I'm going to do the same to this guy. X1, properties, clone to EX1, properties, clone to EX1. Same thing here. Okay, so what clone to does is I can say, and you'll see that all the ones that are clones have the parentheses EX1. So all 7 of these are cloned to EX1, which means that whatever I do to EX1, it will happen to all of these, right? So if I go to EX1, double click it, go to its elevation, um, I can't even scroll to the other ones. So if I do anything to change this one, it'll change all of them, which is really nice. So now let's file, export 3D VRML, okay, select all, export, file, view3D, select it, make sure you go to turn mode, you have to go to turn mode, turn, and there you go. Now obviously the one thing I haven't modeled is this little guy that connects them all, but I think I did the hard part. That's what it's going to look like. So now that we have that in detailer, I can analyze it. I can file save, I can file print reports, select all, print, okay. Click this little thing, make sure I go to the right place. Call it Truss 01 report. £830.7 for all 8 of those, which means if I take that, right click it, or I just copy it, and I come and open up my handy dandy FrameCAD project estimator. I type in today's date. Paste my weight in right here. Looks like I didn't copy very well. 830.7. That's going to cost me $1,500 in total steel cost. Okay. And then of course I can print my drawings. Close that, file, print drawings, select all, print, truss report. I left as print, truss 01 drawings. See, it's going to hide the clones, so it's not going to print those out because it's the same thing. And here's the plan view, and here's the elevation view. Now, if I wanted to, I can go into the elevation view. And since I've changed the design so much now that I got the detailer, I could go into this elevation, EX1, double click it, and just get rid of all the lines. I don't really need the lines anymore. So to do that, I'll select all of this. I'm going to hold shift as I deselect all of the actual studs. I obviously don't want to delete those. Be super careful not to delete your studs. If you want to, you could just select the labels. That's a surefire way of selecting or deselecting the stud itself. and fire away, hit delete. Oops, I did too many. So let's do that again. ST2, ST4, ST1, ST3, ST6 and 11 and 5, ST10 and 8, and I think that's, oh, here's one more. Okay, let's delete all that. There we go, nice and clean. If you missed any, just go back and delete them. There you go. Now when I go to print the drawings, they're not going to look so messy. And if I need my dimensions back, say place dimension, I can hit enter, and then start coordinate would be down here, going to here, right? Or if I hit escape a couple times and I click this, I can say let's do automatically create dimensions. I can hit enter, select objects to dimension, hit enter, start coordinate here, here, here. No, that's not it. That was wrong. Place dimension. Let's do place dimension. Style, align, dimension, style, fixed extensions. Let's do S for style and V for vertical. And enter. And then click here once. Click here. Pull it out this way. And start coordinate again. Here to here. Out to here. Right? Looks like this piece is flipped the wrong way. So if it's flipped the wrong way, we can go to Tools, Flip Stick, select that guy, and I'll flip it the other way. Let's delete this line too. Oof, missed the three-way point right there. There we go. Okay. And then, of course, you could do your other dimension going horizontally. S, H, enter. Go from here, here, go this way, here, here, this way. All right, so let's close that. Let's file save. All right, and that's everything. I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks.